911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hey everyone, welcome to Behind the Crime Door. How are you guys doing this evening? It's good to see everyone. Hold on one second. Forgot to turn on my hashtag. Gives me a little bit more light. I hope everyone's doing well and that you're staying out of the bad weather and harm's way. I hear that Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas are getting some really crazy weather down there. And we are going to get slammed here in a little while. Winter storm is coming right across us. So it'll be interesting to see how much snow we actually get. So everybody, make sure that you keep verbal judo in your thoughts tonight. She's not feeling very well. She was going to be with us, but she's not feeling well. So just keep her in your thoughts and prayers, please. Hey, This'll do nicely. How are you doing? Hey, Pigeon Mac. I hope you have a safe flight home, Pigeon. Hey, John, how are you? Hey, Louisa. It's always good to see you, my dear. Hey, CJK, how are you? Hey, Lisa. How are you? I know it's going to be really wild because they're saying that this is going to be a super, super heavy snow. So very wet and heavy. So the last snowfall we had, which was at Christmas, right at Christmas and Christmas Eve, it was such a light snow and we had that fierce 60-mile-an-hour winds with it. So it blew all over the place. They said it's not going to be like that. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Sierra.
Everything you need to know about products is at Apple's website.
I wasn't talking to you, Siri. Hello, JDR. How are you? Hey, we are Bristol City Football Club. How are you? I love to see a fellow footballer in here. I love football, and I love the Premier League. I'm a Leicester City fan. Oh, CJK, I'm glad that you're recovering. I'm sure that you will feel so much better after having the surgery done. Always hopeful of that. I've had knee surgery myself. In fact, I need to have it again on my. I've had one knee done. Now I need to do the other one, and so that's in my future. I figured you were from the UK. But that's awesome. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you with us. Hi, Help Me, Rhonda. Great song. How are you? Sierra, they're saying between 6 and 8. But you know what? I never truly believe them. And I know that it was, just it's kind of like they have these models, these European models and these other models, and that they use to try to predict the weather. And so we'll just have to wait and see. They always tell us it's going to be worse than it is, which I guess is fine. I'd rather them err on that side than have it the other way and then have us, absolutely smashed. But Louisa, my day wasn't bad. I've actually been battling some low blood sugar issues, and it's actually because my diabetes is very, very well controlled, and so they've got me on a really strong dose of metformin, and so I've been battling that for the last couple of nights in the middle of the night, but other than that, not too bad, you guys. Not too bad. Oh, we are Bristol. Thank you so much for becoming a member. We are so happy to have you here and have you a member of the Doors. Yeah, Louisa, it's something that you are used to in Central Illinois. Actually, our winters have gotten a lot less horrible or bad. I grew up here obviously as a child, and I remember 25 and 29-inch snowfalls. We don't have those kinds of snows anymore here. So, hey, Digital, how are you? So good to see you. Hey, Maria, how are you, my dear? Welcome. Always good to see you and have you here with me. Love you, love you. Hey, Sierra. I know. I always look at the Indy weather when I look at our weather because I'm only 2.5 hours away from you guys. So we usually line up unless it's coming from the south. And sometimes you guys get stuff that we don't. But it looks like this one's going to hit both of us. Lots of stuff going on. How many of you guys are following the Murdaugh trial? That's a case that I'm not really gotten into much. I knew a little bit about it, and just a little, but I haven't really followed that case very well. But I know that it's huge right now, and I know they're picking his jury and that he's been in court the last couple of days. And it's been all over Twitter. So I just wondered how many of you were following it. It just sounds like a horrific a horrific case and just an awful thing. Tonight we're going to talk about Delphi, and we're going to talk about the fact that the jury location has been decided. It's going to be in Allen County, which is the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, which is where the judge is from. So Francis Gull is from Fort Wayne. So I was just thinking about how odd that kind of is to me, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about that a little bit. And I thought it was very ironic that it's in Allen County. Maybe it's just me, and maybe I just see those kinds of things, and it just, but I was like, wow, interesting. So when I put that out there for you guys, I posted it this morning, right when I got the news of it. And yeah. So we have a location. We know that the trial is going to be, the Delphi trial is going to be in Carroll County at the Delphi courthouse. And we also know that the jury is going to come from Allen. So we'll talk about that tonight. And we're going to also talk about some issues that are very high on my radar this year. As I told you guys earlier this month, I'm going to start really covering some indigenous, Native American missing women and children, because I think that this topic is something that gets lost in the narrative when we talk about the missing in this country. And there is a new documentary that is coming out February the 3rd, and I want everybody to be aware of it so that you can watch it. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to also, hold on, sorry. I hate it when my foot itches. Okay. So I posted a picture. I have a picture. Hold on a second, digital, and I'll show you. Just give me 1 second to pull it up, okay? Oh, let's see. I just posted it. That's not it. Here it is. Okay, guys, just give me a moment here to share my screen with you so that you can see the Delphi courtroom. So this is a picture of the courtroom in Delphi. As you can see, this is one of the things I love about Illinois and about Indiana. There are so many old courthouses in this area. And what I mean by that is these are courthouses that have been around for a very, very long time. They have a lot of history. Ours here in Illinois, we have courtrooms where Abraham Lincoln practiced law. They're very amazing courtrooms, but they're small. These were not courtrooms that were built for large trials. These are back when trials were small. So Delphi's courtroom is very much like that. This is where you're going to see This is the prosecution's table. This is the defense table over here. The jury sits here in this jury box where the wood is all around it. Of course, this is where the judge will sit, and anybody who testifies sits here. The court reporter is over here. This ornate chair I have been wondering about. I don't know what this chair is for or who sits there. I don't know who that would be for. And so I was really curious about it because I've never seen anything like that before. So it'll be interesting. And then here is a picture of this is where the gallery or the people who come to watch the trial, this is where you get to sit. Don't those chairs look comfy, you guys? Those wooden-backed, wooden seat chairs. Can you imagine having to sit in those all day long, every day for this length of a trial? And the other thing I thought was interesting and that I love about this courtroom is you have in the back of this courtroom, there is a complete bookshelf of all of the law books that I'm assuming cover the laws in Indiana. I think that that is a very cool thing to see in that courtroom. But yeah, this is not built for comfort. These are not like some of the courtrooms you see out in California, you know, in the newer courtrooms that you're going to see in the newer states, I guess, newer areas where they've built new courthouses. We have some new courthouses here that have, you know, that don't have this, but we also have some old ones that they've kept. Yeah, I would be definitely bringing a seat cushion and possibly a massage cushion. I'm just kidding. But yeah. So there is a lot. When you look at this, it's not all just for the public though, JDR. There are chairs for the public, don't get me wrong. But this whole gallery has to be shared with the family members. So we have 2 victims in Delphi. So we have 2 families that get precedence. So they're going to take up a couple of rows for sure in this trial. I'm just sure about that. Then you have the media. They also get a certain number of seats held out for them. And so there will be the media that will be allowed, and then you'll have the rest that will be the gallery. What's going to be interesting to see is if they just allow a first come, first serve basis, or if they're going to have some sort of I don't know, like a drawing kind of thing. Sometimes they do that, where certain media gets in one day, certain media gets in the next day. I don't know how they're going to do that, but yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. It is very nostalgic. Help me, Rhonda. It is. It's a very old, lots of history in this courtroom. The big windows, the ornate moldings, and the chandelier lighting that they have, everything about it is, like I said, it shows the ambiance to me, and it's just a very cool looking room, but it's small, so it will be very close quarters. And maybe a deputy sits here. I don't know. I know that they'll have deputies close to where Richard Allen is seated. And obviously then these are screens that they use to show visual evidence. This whole area over here will be the area where any visual evidence would be shown, I'm assuming, charts and so forth. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. Hey, Miss Siren. How are you? Yeah, Barbara McDonald, I'm assuming, will be there every day. No, this is for the trial, Melissa. This is where his hearings have been here as well, but his trial is going to be here as well. Hey, Tech Death. How are you, my dear? It's so good to have you with me tonight. So, once the trial starts, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit, you guys, about, it could be the bailiff's seating, John. I think there's a seat right here, though. From what I can tell, that looks like a chair arm. And I'm thinking the bailiff may sit here, right next to the jurors. But maybe not. So I'm not sure. Hey, Danger Dave, how are you? But yeah, I think it's very ornate and very beautiful. So we talked a little bit. There's a new docuseries that's coming out. And it's determined that this docuseries is supposed to raise awareness, you guys, of the stories of missing and murdered Native American women. It was directed by Roselle Benelli and Matthew Galkin, and it's a Showtime series, and it's called Murder in Bighorn. It follows the cases of the missing indigenous women from the Crow and Northern Cheyenne nations in Montana's Bighorn County through the lens of the closest to them. And this movie appeared or docuseries, appeared at the Sundance 2023. They're joined by activist Lucy Simpson and Luella Bryan to discuss how the series sheds light on missing indigenous women and how non-native people may not be aware of the ongoing crisis that's happening to Native American communities. There's the idea that Native American tribes are part of our history when we're in existence and surviving. Outside of those tribal communities, people don't know that they still exist. And it's going to premiere, like I said, globally on February the 3rd. There's a widespread anger and sadness in First Nation communities. Sisters, wives, mothers, and daughters are gone from their families without clear answers. There are families whose loved ones are missing, babies growing up without mothers, mothers without daughters, and grandmothers without granddaughters. For Native Americans, this adds one more layer of trauma upon existing wounds that cannot heal, and communities are pleading for justice. The National Crime Information Center reports that in 2016, there were 5,712 reports of missing American Indian and Alaska Native women and girls through the U.S. Department of Justice's Federal Missing Person database, NamUs, only logged 116 cases. So of the 5,712 reports, only 116 cases were created. A red hand over the mouth has become the symbol of a growing movement, and it's the MMIW movement. It stands for all the missing sisters whose voices are not heard, and it stands for the silence of the media and law enforcement in the midst of this crisis. It stands for the oppression and subjugation of Native women who are now rising up to say, no more stolen sisters. There are numerous reasons why there is such silence, and it's widespread on the MMIW issue. But at the forefront lies issues stemming from the Indian Relocation Act and federal policies. Many Native Americans do not live on the tribal lands or reservations, only 22%, where when someone goes missing, the community and tribal law enforcement band together in search efforts. 78% of America's Native population lives off the reservation, with 60% of those residing in an urban area. Cities offer few ties to Native culture, communities, and tribal law enforcement. And many urban Indians, people living in cities, they do fall into the pipeline of vulnerability. And people of color, people coming out of the foster care system, people of poverty, according to Janine Comnote, Executive Director of the National Urban Indian Family Coalition, poverty remains one of the most challenging aspects to contemporary urban Indian life. And while I do recognize that a sizable chunk of our population is solidly middle class, every Native person I know has either experienced poverty or has a family member who is. Housing and homelessness remains at the top of the list of challenges. Statistics on the missing and murdered indigenous women do not lie. And Native Americans today face some extraordinary challenges. These statistics from the Urban Indian Health Institute were compiled from a survey of 71 U.S. cities in 2016. The numbers speak for themselves. Native American women make up a significant portion of the missing and murdered cases. Not only is the murder rate 10 times higher than the national average for women living on reservations, but murder is the third leading cause of death for Native women. Third leading cause of death for Native women. This is startling, as Native people make up only 2% of the U.S. overall population. Urban Indian Health Institute reports the youngest MMIW victim was a baby, less than 1 year old, and the oldest victim was an 83-year-old. Education, change, and prevention will help this issue. Native Hope and its allies are committed to putting an end to MMIW for good, and they need your help. I'm going to put up a link for you guys if you want to go donate to help them out. But we are going to be covering a lot more of these cases this year, you guys. And I just want you to know it's pathetic. They're not talked about. They're not in mainstream media. They're not even in regional media. They're just being forgotten, and it's unacceptable. And we as content creators, I feel that since we have a platform, it's important for us to get the word out. Hey, Derek, so good to see you. How are you? I'm so happy to have you here. Finally, you get to catch a live with me. How great. Hey, Jane from the country. Oh, Luis, I hope you feel better, my dear. There's a lot of sickness going around. The other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight, you guys, was I thought this case was really interesting, and I wanted to share it because it just goes back to show that you can never give up and you can never lose hope. These families who have missing people, children, women, brothers, fathers, they need hope. And this case brings it. So there's been a suspect identified in a half-century-old Boardman cold case. And Bradley Bolino was murdered in 1972. And it's a story that dominated headlines for years after it happened. He was 12 years old, and he is back in the news. So anyway, Boardman police held a news conference today for what they have characterized as an update on the investigation into the Easter weekend 1972 slaying of Bradley Bolino. The suspect has been identified as Joseph Norman Hill, who died in 2019 of natural causes. He was 32 years old at the time of the murder. There is no link between Hill and the Bolino family. He lived on Shadyside Drive in Boardman at the time of the murder, but moved to Yucaipa, California. I know I brutalized that name. In 1978, where he resided until his death in July of 2019. During his time in Boardman, Hill was a truck driver for a bottled water company. Police say 98% of his DNA was found on Bolino's clothes. Officers tell 21 News they were dead set on finding Bolino's killer. I vowed at the time I'd work very hard to find out what happened to him, said retired Boardman police officer Robert Rupp. Rupp even went as far as North Carolina to follow leads on this case. I thought about this case every single day of my life, even after I retired, Rupp said. Rupp isn't the only one that was haunted by this case for years, you guys. The last friend to see Bolino alive also bearing very painful memories. It was just devastating, said Don Templeman, best friend of Bolino. Templeman and Bolino were inseparable, even going to the same school, having sleepovers, and playing on the same sports teams. When we started playing baseball together, I was the pitcher and he was the catcher, and my dad was the coach. Many of those days ended with a family dinner at Templeman's house, which was also the case the last day of Bolino's life. In the days to follow Bolino's disappearance, Templeman's fears were confirmed by a teacher during a math class. I have some news. The Bolino boy has been found, said Templeman. Everyone cheered and was excited, but then she said, but he's dead. Templeman tells 21 News it was a hard pill to swallow, but now we have closure. 2 other cold cases involving missing juveniles occurred during Hill's time in Boardman. These cases include one of 15-year-old Thomas Baird, who was found on Lake Park Road in 1970 and died just days later, and one of 13-year-old David Evans, who went missing in January of 1975. 6 days later, Evans' body was found frozen in the bushes of a parking lot. Boardman Police Chief Todd Worth tells 21 News Police, we are working to determine whether or not these cases could have any connection to Hill. The Valley first learned about Bolino after he left a friend's home in the Applewood Acres neighborhood on Friday, March 31st, 1972. But he never returned to his home, which was located on McClurg Road, not far from where the Mercy Hospital now stands, according to the Vindicator archives. Police began a search for the child, and it wasn't until the following Tuesday, April 4th, that Brad Bolino's body was found by a trash collector in a dumpster behind the Isleys in the Boardman Plaza. Still wearing tennis shoes, police say Bolino had been sexually assaulted and strangled to death with a belt that was still around the child's neck. In spite of police reports of possible leads in the case, help from a psychologist, and a $2,000 reward, the killer of Brad Bolino was never identified until now, 51 years later. 21 News spoke with Don Templeman, who was Bolino's best friend and the last person to see him alive after he left his home in March of '72. So there you go, you guys. Even though the person who was responsible for Brad Bolino's murder is dead and deceased, at least they were able to finally use DNA that was taken from 1972, you guys, and they were finally able to match it. And I just think that that is unbelievable and amazing, and it never ceases to amaze me when these cases are solved, because I have heard so many people over the years with Delphi. I've been following Delphi since day one, covering Delphi in my own way since day one. And no one has heard it more often. I think we all have actually heard it more often said, this case will never be solved. They'll never figure out who killed Abby and Libby. Well, guess what, you guys? Here we are facing a trial. We have an arrest in this case. The arrest occurred on October 28th, 2022. 5.5 years after the murders of Abby and Libby. Richard Allen is the person suspected of doing this horrific crime. And law enforcement has put out some evidence that they have against Richard Allen. And we all have talked about that. But I think back to this case of Bolino, and I wonder, because in the report that I read, it doesn't talk about his family and it doesn't talk about his parents. And I wonder if they're still with us, and if they are, what they must be feeling, knowing that their son had been taken from them in such a brutal way, and they never knew why or who or anything. And at least now, the police officers who are still around that took this case to heart, took this case with them even after they left the police force, have a resolution. They know who did it. And now they're looking at him for other crimes. So there's a lot being said right now about genetic genealogy and the pros and cons of it. And I hear a lot from people saying, well, I would never want my DNA out there like that. I will never post my DNA on GEDmatch. I think it's the most amazing thing that we can do as law-abiding citizens. If you know that you have the ability to catch criminals, to me, and especially criminals who prey on women and children, they are the worst of the worst. And for it to be used in that fashion, I think it's amazing. And I commend everyone who has done their genealogy through Ancestor or 23andMe and then uploaded it into GEDmatch, because you guys know that 23andMe nor Ancestry.com allow law enforcement to have access to their databases. They protect the information of their users, and they will not allow law enforcement that information. But you can take your information and upload it into GEDmatch, and that is where these cases are being solved. And I can't tell you enough how much that means to me. Ava Hawkshaw, you are so right. Sometimes justice is slow, but boy, is it mighty. And, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just amazing to me that here we are with Delphi and we've come full circle. We're getting ready to have a trial. I believe on February the 17th is the next court date, and Richard Allen will appear in court that day, and there's going to be a hearing for bond for him or for bail. There is going to be motions probably about discovery, probably some other housekeeping kind of things that the defense and prosecution will need to do. But I also think a trial date will be set or possibly be set, depending on where they are with discovery. I do not look for the trial to be this year, you guys. I just don't. I would be very, very surprised. Hey, Lynn GMB, good to have you here with us tonight. I would be really surprised if it does. Somebody asked me today if I knew how many alternate jurors or anything about what the jury selection will be over in Fort Wayne. And what I can tell you is that they'll obviously have to pick 12. I don't know if they'll go ahead and pick 12 alternates for this case or not. Maybe 8 to 10 alternates for this case would be enough. But you have to give yourself enough in case. You have jurors who get sick. You have jurors who have things happen or come up. And if anything kind of weird happens with the jury where they have to be dismissed for things that they do that they're not supposed to do, or they get found out doing, or anything comes out from their past or background, there can be all kinds of reasons that jurors get excused by the court. And they have to have a juror to put in place. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So there's a lot of things that have to take place before opening arguments ever happen in this case. There hasn't been a preliminary hearing yet for Richard Allen. And he is waiting on a preliminary hearing until his defense team gets all the discovery. And I'm sure that that's what he's waiting on, because there is so much discovery. And if you listened at all to the court proceedings in the Idaho case last week, BK's attorney said that they were waiving the preliminary hearing until June because there was so much discovery that they needed. Plus, they have to run their own investigation. They have to have their own experts look at things and go over everything. Well, the same thing happens in Delphi, you guys. The defense has to run their own investigation side by side of what the prosecution did. Prosecution isn't going to give them every single thing that they did and how they arrived at what they arrived at. They're not going to do that work for the defense. That's up to the defense to do. And so that's why they have to have their own experts. And they want to have their own experts anyway, because they want to have experts that are going to be put up there that will counter what the prosecution's experts are claiming or saying. And so there's a lot of work to be done yet in this case, but I think that we can all look at it right now as, wow, it's kind of ironic. And I don't know. I'm just like in awe right now of the whole process. I really thought that they would pick the jury from Evansville, way south in southern Indiana, 150 miles away. I thought that they would have a better chance of getting an impartial jury from way south. What I think is interesting, you guys, if you've been watching the Murdaugh trial, they're in the process of jury selection. So you can learn a lot from these trials if you watch. And they had all these prospective jurors. And in South Carolina, the law states that the judge is the one who asks the questions of the jurors, not the prosecution and not the defense. Some states, the prosecution can question a juror, a prospective juror, and the defense can, but not in South Carolina. And so they polled all of these prospective jurors, and I don't remember how many they said they had, but all of them, they polled them and said, how many of you have heard of this case? I think there was 40 of them. Every single person raised their hand. Every single person. Stop and think about that. And that's just the Alex Murdaugh trial. We've got Delphi that has been going on for nearly 6 years, and it's an international case. It has reached far and wide. Not that his case hasn't, but Delphi is so different. I mean, if you don't think Delphi is different, follow these cases and listen to the amount of tips that came in on these cases. Listen to the amount of tips. Delphi had over 72,000 tips, you guys. And it's an insane number. An absolutely insane number. So, it's a lot. And they've got their work cut out for them, because the defense has got to go through every bit of that. And they have to look at everything. And you would want them to, as I've said before, I want the best possible defense ever for Richard Allen. I want this case handled by a judge and a prosecutor that know what the heck they're doing. At this point in time, I'm comfortable with Frances Gull. I feel that she is spot on. I'm feeling good with her. As far as Nicholas McClellan, I'm here to tell you, yeah, Tech Death, you're probably right. I'm here to tell you that I'm not so sure about Nick. I think Nick needs help. I would love to see a special prosecutor assigned to him, but I don't see it happening at this stage in the game. And yeah, Lynn, I heard that. They have food trucks set outside the courthouse for Alex's trial. Well, you have to stop and think. I know it sounds like it's a circus, and by them doing that, but you've got people that are coming in there, and I don't know how big of a location this is, but people have to eat, and there's not a lot of time in between breaks. So I think it's kind of nice that they do that. It not only helps the community and those businesses that have those food trucks, but I think it helps out the people that are there and they get hungry. Also, I think that another question that had come up was, will the jury be sequestered? The jury will most certainly will be sequestered. I will be absolutely floored, because when you have a death penalty case, they have to be sequestered. And I believe that Richard Allen will be looking at the death penalty in this case. I would be floored if not. The only way Richard Allen will not be looking at the death penalty in this case is if the families petition the prosecution and tell them, we don't want that, we want life in prison. And that's up to them, and they're right to have those feelings about what happens here. But that's the only way that I see no sequestering of the jury, because they're going to need to keep them from listening to all of this. They're going to need to keep them from social media, from any media at whatsoever, because I guarantee you Delphi has got, they thought things were crazy when the girls went missing. They thought that it was crazy then. They have no clue what is coming for them with this trial, because everybody's going to be there on the national level. We're going to have all of the media and the whirlwind of trucks and people covering this. And, I look for a lot of people to be there, whether Nancy Grace comes or not, and camps out with her table that everybody was upset about in Idaho. There's going to be a lot of coverage. So it's about sequestering doesn't have anything to do with who they side with. A jury that has nothing to do with sequestering. A jury is only supposed to go off of the evidence they hear in a courtroom, not by somebody giving lip service to what they think is evidence on television. We are not privy to this case and its evidence. We've only been privy to what's been released in court documents. So we have to remember that the jury has specific jury instructions that they're to follow. It is not what they think. It's not how they feel. They may very well feel the person they're looking at is guilty as sin, but if it hasn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, they're not to find that person guilty. And that is what is hard for people to understand. So, like I said, it's easy to think how easy it would be to be a juror, but I've been a juror. I've been on a grand jury. It is not easy. I've never, ever been on a jury that had to deal with someone's life. I don't know that I could do that, honest to God. I just don't. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Nancy Grace anymore. I liked her when she first started doing her show on HLN years and years and years and years ago. But she's just become a person who tries people in the media, and she knows better. She's a prosecutor. She knows that that's not supposed to happen, but she does it anyway. And she just throws people underneath the bus. And in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. And we must never forget that. Because once we lose that, you guys, we lose our freedoms. To have people be able to just pick you up off the street, accuse you of a crime with no due process, no anything, and throw you in jail and throw away the key. That's what happens in other countries. And, oh God, Derek, please don't get me started with Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. Don't get me started on those two. but Tech's right. You know, she plays to it too, because I think people have found out, and I mean, I've even found it out here on YouTube. I've now celebrated my first year on YouTube with my Behind the Crime Door channel, and I found out in the year that I've been here that there are people out there that simply want the conflict. They simply want to watch people argue and get nasty and get mad. They want to see people get riled up. They want to see salacious crap. That's what they want. And that's why you see these shows that do that have such big audiences and large followings, because there's so many people out there that that's what they want. And I'm not one of those people, you guys. I don't do this for that. And, oh, did she, Lynn? Interesting. That is so interesting. Yeah, Dave, Deanne, you're right. But it's not fair, and it's not something that we want to see happen in this country. Danger Dave, you have a good evening. Drive safely out there. So there's a lot to be said about juries and what juries have to go through and what this jury is going to have to go through. Being the fact that it's Fort Wayne, I guarantee you they've heard about Delphi. I would be shocked and stunned to find out if there's a lot of people in Fort Wayne that have never heard of Abby and Libby. It was everywhere in northern Indiana. Now in southern Indiana, that wouldn't surprise me that there would be people, but it was everywhere in northern Indiana. And I don't know. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, I can't see them driving these jurors from Fort Wayne to Delphi and just letting them run amok. I think that would be one of the silliest mistakes that the court could make, because on appeal, that will be a contention. Oh, Derek, I love Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth she said it like it was. You know, there was no ifs, ands, or buts around it. She was something else. So anyway, I don't know. I'm just glad they finally made a decision and that we have a location and we have where things are going to transpire going forward. Oh, help me, Rhonda. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Thank you. I hope to be here many more years down the road. I don't feel at any point right now that I'm ready to give it up. I enjoy covering the cases. I will say that sometimes back-to-back cases can take a lot out of you. I went through that right before Christmas, the end of November. There was, so many tragic little boys that were babies that were just being murdered. And I can't, baby Quentin took a lot out of me, you guys. It really did. It really socked me. And I needed that time that I took at Christmas where I wasn't live streaming just to get my head back in the game, because you guys, I know people wonder, what does it take to put on a live stream and what does it take to do these shows? I don't know about a lot of people and what they do, but I do a lot of deep dive preparation into the cases. I look for lots of newspaper articles, interviews. I watch a lot of live interviews that are done with police, family, and the local news media that's covering the cases. And that in itself is time consuming, but when you start getting yourself emotionally invested, and it's hard not to, especially with these little children, it is so hard. And there are a lot of cases, Lynn, that are getting ready to go to trial. And there were just so many of them that, we just didn't think, some of them went missing, and we were all so wanting the different outcome that happened. And so many of them died. And I was just, the air in the sail, or the air in my balloon was deflated. So, oh, Derek, thank you. I don't know about that, but I do believe in research. And I do believe that you should do research before you start talking about something. So I try to be factual. You guys know that. I'm all about trying to be factual. If you guys ever find me saying something that's not factual, and it's not, and you can show me where it's not from a reliable source, I will definitely, recant or change or say that I'm wrong, because it's important. Hey, Babs Forever, thank you so very much. And thank you so much for being here. But yeah, it's important that we continue to talk about all of these things and how it all plays out. I know people are on pins and needles right now because it seems like there's nothing coming out about Delphi, but there is little bits and pieces. And there's things that we can look at and talk about to help fill that information void. And one of the things I thought was interesting, and I thought we could touch on again, was after we watched Richard Allen's video from the pool hall that my good friend the Inquisitor put out last Saturday. I think we see a whole different side to who Richard Allen may be. I was just talking to my beloved Maria, True Crime Maria, earlier this evening, and we were talking about how much that video told us about Bridge Guy, about who that guy on the bridge is. Because when you look at the mannerisms and you look at him, I just can't tell you how much he looks like him. Oh yes, Jane, I don't know any prosecutor that would not listen to the family's opinions on the death penalty. I think that that's a given. I would be very, very surprised if they didn't talk to the family and ask the family what their thoughts were on it and how they felt about it. I am sure that there have been prosecutors that have probably gone against the family's wishes, but I think we know the one of the cases that is one of the high profile cases that comes to mind is Chris Watts. He was up for the death penalty. They wanted desperately to give him the death penalty in Colorado, and the families didn't want it. The families did not want it. And so, yes, I think, Rose, we are looking at least for a year, if maybe not more. And I think what'll happen and what we'll see happen is postponements. I think they may set a trial date, and just like we've seen for Kagan Klein, we'll see it postponed as things come up. As they wade through the mountainous volumes of discovery. because she's talked about it. Francis Gull talked about it at the last court date and said how voluminous the paper is in this case. And I know that that's hard to hear, you guys, because we've waited so long already. But it's something that we're just going to have to be patient about. And it is hard to do because, like I said, I feel like, oh my goodness, you know, we've waited this long. But I'm sure that if it's hard on us, you can imagine what it's like for Becky and Mike, Kelsey, and Anna. I mean, I just can't even imagine being them, having to wait and go through this because they don't know. They know as much as we know. They don't know either. And if they do know more, they can't talk about it. And now that there's the gag order, that's even harder, you know. And yeah, I agree with you so much, Derek. As long as they get it right, and as long as we have the right person, and we get everybody that's involved, I'm good with that. And see, the speedy trial can be waived by the defendant. And a speedy trial can only be so speedy when you have all of this discovery, Lynn. So if you have and one of the things that comes to mind is the Kristen Smart case. 25 years, that case. 25 years. And there's a ton of discovery. A ton. I was watching a documentary about a case over the weekend, and they were with the mother of the child who has been missing and was found murdered. And it was like 19 years later, and they had her in the basement of the police department or the police station. And in that police station, they had a shelving unit that had 5 shelves of books this big lined up on those shelves of her daughter's case. That was all paper about her daughter's case for 19 years. And that's a lot. And when you go back to cases that are 25 years old, they didn't have computers. Everything was handwritten. Everything was, you stop and think about that. Some of these trials, it's not so easy to have a speedy trial. And with Kagan Klein, he's waived his right to a speedy trial. BK in Idaho waived his right to a speedy trial. And it's because of the discovery. They want their defense team to be able to have the ability to go over all of this evidence. They don't want them to have to go to court without knowing the knowledge of all of, you know what I mean? Of everything that the prosecution has in their evidence. They want to be able to look at all that. And then they want their experts to be able to do their own tests on items found at the crime scene, items that were recovered at his home, any other evidence that they have out there that needs to have, any kind of forensic test done on it. Yeah, Jane, that's supposedly what he said to law enforcement officers as or not law enforcement officers. I'm sorry. That's not what I'm completely thinking about BK here. I do not know that Rick Allen said anything to the families. I know that he interacted with Tara at the CVS when Tara took in the photos to have the photographs made copies of for the memory boards at the funeral for both of the girls. And he was the one who waited on her and did not charge her for the photos. And yes, Derek, Eton Potts was the poster boy of missing children. He was the milk carton boy that I'll always remember. They put his face on milk cartons when he went missing. And, you know, those cases, when you have cases that are that old and that long, you're going to have a lot of discovery, especially if they're large cases that got a lot of traction. And we know Delphi did. So, but anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. JDR said that he would not, or they would not want to be on a sequestered jury. It's just too much. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the OJ trial, you know, they were sequestered for 8 months. Their lives were upended. By the end of that trial, they just wanted off the jury. They wanted out. It's a lot to ask. I do not look at all for this trial to take 8 months. So there's no way that I would look for that in this case. I know that they've put aside like a week. I don't know that a week is long enough, but I definitely do not see anything like 8 months. Again, could be wrong, you guys. I mean, you know, I don't know everything. And I don't have a crystal ball. But so Richard Allen, you guys, you know, we were talking about, I had started to go off that and somehow got back on the jury stuff. But you know, we looked at the video of him and, you know, playing pool. And I just, like I said, I'm going to pull that up real quick. Hold on a second, because to me, it just shows so much about who he is. I'm going to go back a few frames here and we'll watch a little bit past where we did on Saturday night on my live. Okay, here we go. Tell me, you guys, if you have trouble. There's not really a lot to hear. You don't hear him talk or anything. There's a lot of background noise and country music. And this is Richard Allen, and this is his wife, and this is their friend. One of the things I find so interesting is how he's hugging this post. He's got a beer in his hand, and he's hugging this post. Pretty soon he's going to put that beer down, and he's going to still be hugging the post with both arms. It's strange. Whoops, hold on a second. I completely agree with you, JDR. I believe that he stays in the shadows in this video because he knows there's a person over here videotaping this whole thing. And he, in fact, when he is done standing over here, he leaves and comes over here and sits at this long bar over here where he's absolutely obscured by another pillar. And I thought the same thing. I was like, this guy is trying to keep himself off of video because his wife is all over the place and she obviously doesn't care. Jane, I think it was because this is their weekly what am I trying to say? Their pool league that they were in. And this here, I believe, is like the championship table, or this is where you play so many rounds or whatever, and then you end up at this table here in front of everybody where everybody can watch you. And it's kind of like the pinnacle of the league, kind of. And I think that's what's going on here. And somebody was videotaping it, whether it's another person who's in the league or whatever. But yeah. So there you guys hear, this is the final game. So this is for the win for the league for this. I don't know if it's for this week or this session or whatever. But yeah, if you watch his wife throughout this whole video, she's all over the place talking to people and everything. And the only person that I really see Rick talk to is this guy right here. He doesn't really have much else to say or do in this video. The other thing I noticed about him in this video is that he's gained a lot of weight. From what he looked like at the end of 2016, when we saw him playing pool in the other video at JC's bar, he was very, very much not as full around the middle as he is here. And so I think that that's another telltale sign of how he changed his appearance over time from February of 2017. And there he sits right here. So he moved from down here and came and sat over here. I just think it's weird how he peers out around this pillar. I just do. I think he knew he was being recorded, like JDR said. And I think that he was trying to keep himself off of someone's video the best that he could. But who knows? Maybe he just doesn't like being on camera. Many of us are like that, I suppose. But very interesting video. Like I said, I think a lot can be gleaned from it by watching the behavior. But getting back to Richard Allen's statement, I just wanted to talk about that just a little bit, about what he did say as far as what would be, I guess my feeling is, what would be the reason, what would make a man come forward and place himself on a bridge on the same day and at the same time that two teenagers were murdered, if he wasn't the person that was standing on that bridge that day? What would make him do that? He had his face covered. His lower face was covered. And, yeah, somebody saw him, but, he was covered. He didn't believe that anybody was going to really recognize him. That's why he wore a mask over his face the way he did, right? That's why Bridge Guy did that. It wasn't cold enough that day to have your face covered up. He did that because he didn't want anyone to recognize him. He was trying to make it much more difficult to recognize him or to be able to describe him. And if he had worn a stocking cap, that covered his whole face, that would have been really weird. So yeah, that would have brought much more attention. So he just chose to do that. And so not only does Richard Allen say, yeah, guys, I was at the bridge that day. Yeah, I was there that day. And I just wanted to let you know, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see the girls. I didn't hear anything. And Maria, you're probably right. That is probably true. And I'm thinking probably especially the woman who approached the bridge and saw him on the first platform. I'm thinking that she may very well have been his reason. Because she must have gotten a better look at him. And maybe at that point in time, he didn't have a face covering. Maybe he had removed it or pulled it down when she showed up. But he not only tells law enforcement that he was there that day and that he was on the bridge and he was watching fish. He does that quite often. He goes there and watches the fish off of the Monon High Bridge. But he also tells them, yeah, I was wearing blue jeans and I had a blue jacket on. Nobody else has given a description over 6 years that I'm aware of seeing two men out there with the same description of clothing. Nobody said that they saw two men out there with blue jeans and a blue jacket. I have never heard anyone say that. I really wonder what Richard Allen was thinking after he told him he was there and when nobody showed up at his house. Can you honestly think that when he went to the conservation law enforcement officer, did he not think somebody was going to come knocking on his door and interview him? And when that didn't happen, what do you think was going through this guy's head? Yeah, Kiwi, I've wondered that too, because I've wondered the same thing. Hey, Emily, how are you? I wondered when what it will take for her to stop standing beside him. I wonder when the aha moment might happen. Is it going to be in court when something is brought up, some evidence is brought up, or what? No, Emily, I don't. I think that the trial will be sometime next year. Yeah, Little Daisies, I agree with you. I think he thought he was in the clear. I think he thought, wow, I dodged a bullet. I don't think they have a clue that it's me. It's going to be really interesting. And I still wonder I know that Doug Carter told us that there's a lot of tentacles in this case, and I am really, really looking forward to seeing what those tentacles are. I think if you look at him, you can tell he's not weathering well in jail. He looked much more frail to me this time around in court than he did in November. He was, what do I want to say? He was, he weighs less. Obviously, he's lost weight. But yeah, he just didn't look as good to me, like in good shape, I think, emotionally as well as physically. And you know, just because he committed this crime doesn't mean that his mother still doesn't love him. And it's hard for somebody to turn love off with a switch. She has loved this man since high school, and that's a long history. It's not easy to just wake up one day and find out that the person that you've loved since high school and have shared your entire life with, slept next to, had a child with, could be someone that's capable of doing that. So, yes, they did say that the guy in the video is the murderer. Law enforcement most certainly did. They said, this is our suspect. This is who we believe is connected to the murders of Abby and Libby. Yes, they did say that. So yeah, the clothes have a lot to do with the murders. And they said that early on, right after they released the video of Bridge Guy. In the very beginning, when they released the still photo from the video, all they said was, this guy is somebody that we want to talk to. This is a person of interest that we want to talk to who may have information. And less than a week later, they put out the video and said, this is our suspect. This is who we believe is responsible for the deaths of Abby and Libby. So most certainly it's connected. I don't think so. I really don't look for this guy to do a plea deal. I don't even think the state will offer him a plea deal. They may offer him life in prison. They may take the death penalty off the table. But I would think that would have to be a full confession on his part. And I don't look for that. I think he's got too good of a defense attorneys that's not going to let that happen. Hi, Chris. No, there has been no connection between Richard Allen and the Kleins that we know of publicly. There has been nothing. Law enforcement at this point isn't going to tell us anything that they find from here on out. So we will have to wait for that to happen, either with an arrest or with something that happens in court. Yes. And they also said, not only at the New Direction press conference on April 22nd of 2019, they also said that the man that you hear in the video is, when they added guys to Down the Hill, is one and the same. Those are not two voices. They said that was the same voice. Oh, I think they have much more than just matching clothing. I think they may very well have clothing that has DNA on it. I think that they have possible pet hair from one of his animals that was at the crime scene. If they have that and are able to definitively have DNA to match to an animal, that's a nail in his coffin. He would have a really hard time explaining that away. But I think that there's a lot. And I'm sorry, but that unspent bullet is enough to convict. There is a lot there, especially with him being there and not really being able to explain why he was there. Come on, you don't go to a 70-foot bridge in the air to watch fish. I don't care how many people say that that's a thing. It's not a thing. People don't do that. Not in a creek in the middle of winter in Indiana. No. But like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see what his defense comes up with. But thanks for the comment, Loose Leaf Page, for sure. I do disagree. I think it's plenty. No, he has never. Well, he has claimed he's innocent to his attorneys. He told his attorneys he was innocent, I believe. No, the video didn't come out till the video came out in 2017. Yes, little daisies. That's the thing that I've tried to get people to understand too. His family is victims. His mother, his father, his siblings, his daughter, his daughter's family. They're all victims. If he's guilty of this. And it's very possible that they found souvenirs. There's been all kinds of speculation that there was souvenirs taken. And I think we learned in Ron Logan's affidavit that there was things taken from the girls. And so, anything's possible. And again, I think with the eyewitness, as Maria says, with the eyewitness accounts, the timeline, the timing, when he was there, where he was at the time, within minutes of the girls seeing the guy on the bridge, he was there on the bridge. There is an eyewitness to that. And the woman who saw him saw the girls just a couple of minutes later getting ready to go on the bridge. And I think that's huge. That puts him right there as the guy on the bridge that says, guys down the hill. I think that's enough. The reason that they have two public defenders is because this is a possible death penalty case, and they need to have them. It's a very high profile case. They wanted to make sure that he was covered. He had a great defense, and that's why there's two. But because it's a death penalty case, I wouldn't expect them to do anything else but have two. This is a huge case, a lot of discovery. They need to have a couple of lawyers for him. And thank you so much for that, Sylvia. Could Alan also possibly be responsible for the Evandale's murders? We don't know. I know there's a lot of people that have thought that and think that the cases are related. Obviously, we have nothing that says that, but I'm sure that they are going to be looking at all of that. I know that the Iowa police came out and said that the two cases are not connected, that they looked at them greatly. And I'm sure after Richard Allen was arrested, they looked at him again. So I'm sure that that has happened. Oh, you're welcome, Loose Leaf. No problem at all. I think they have a lot more evidence than we're aware of. They never put all of their evidence in an affidavit. They never do. They're not going to put their whole case out there for everyone to see. Trust me. And I like lurkers, by the way. And that's the other thing. You know, about the unspent shell casing, he's going to have a lot to do to prove why that would have been found between the two girls. Because he admittedly told law enforcement he never ever let anyone borrow his gun, use his gun, or have access to his gun. So if that's the case, Richard, how did that unspent shell casing that has the markings from your gun appear there? Chris, the trial was scheduled for March. It's still scheduled for March, but I do not believe that those dates will hold. I think that those will be changed coming up on February 17th when they have his bail hearing. And yeah, they have his car on video when he was appearing and came in and parked. And there was another witness that saw him muddy and bloody around 4 o'clock when he left. So there's a lot of witnesses there that have seen things that's going to have to be explained away. Funny. Yeah, Emily, he was surely catfishing. Oh, yeah, Chris, I think that it won't be this year. I look for it to be sometime next year. Honestly, I'll be surprised. I hope it's this year, but I'll be very surprised. I think it could drag on because, as Maria said, many of these trials do because they have so much stuff that they have to do. The defense has to get the experts in. They have to run tests. The lab tests take a while. They have to go through all the evidence. And if you watched the last interview with his defense attorneys at the last court proceeding, they did talk about how much is there for them to wade through and go through. They do have staff to help them, but it's not a lot. They don't have a lot of staff, and it's not going to be the same as high-powered paid attorneys would have if he could have went out and paid to have high-profile attorneys like O.J. Simpson had, where you have all of these players and all of this staff that's able to wade through and go through your. Hello. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Oh, you're welcome, little Daisy. Thank you so much, because you know there is a lot of things to update and things that we need to stay on top of. Just all the motions, all the things that are going to happen. We want to keep up on all of that. I don't think that asking the families this question is I don't think asking the family members this question is going to render anything because I don't think they have any way of knowing that. Emily says, I feel shocked at how there were several people in these past 5+ years I seriously thought might be bridge guy, and they were not. My speculations were way off. I have to, in all honesty, say, I think everybody was. We all were. I think we all were shocked when Richard Allen was the guy that they arrested. Who would have ever thought the guy handing out your prescriptions at the CVS was bridge guy? Nobody. Although I think it's interesting that Tobe Lesenby said for years that he knew the voice. I've heard that voice before. And Tobe has admitted being in the CVS multiple times, many times, and Richard Allen waiting on him and being helpful and everything. So there you go. That's where he's heard the voice. But it's hard to match that, you know. You may have heard the voice, but you don't know for sure where. Right, Daisy, tentacles. Yeah, the family's under a gag order. There is a gag order in the trial. The family's not going to be talking. And quite frankly, the family needs to be left alone. Kelsey is expecting a new baby, and she needs all the calm that she can get over the next few months. And it's not going to be easy for her. I too, Emily, hope there are no legal glitches. Thank you, Sylvia. I've heard about the pictures. I have not seen them. I do not believe they are real. I don't believe that anybody has pictures of the crime scene. I don't believe that anybody has pictures of anything. If that was the case, those pictures would have been released years ago. There are a lot of sick people on the internet that want to put themselves in the middle of this case. There's been a lot of dirty, nasty things done for years surrounding Delphi, with people putting out fake this and fake that. So no, I don't believe any of them are real, and I haven't even looked at them. I have heard about them. Yes, Chris, they arrested him for the murders of Libby and Abby. So yes, they believe Bridge Guy is responsible for the murders of Libby and Abby. So I do believe that they believe that he's Bridge Guy. It's mind-blowing. We all have talked about it. I've had many a conversation with Steve with True Crime Web about this. I've talked to GonZo about this. We've all talked about this and how we feel like the Kleins, there's something about them that's there. But at this point in time, I believe that the Kleins are a red herring. I do not believe they have anything to do with this case. That's just me. That's just how I feel. I could be completely wrong, and I'll be the first one to say it. But I just, at this point in time and where we're at, they would have arrested them by now because they have enough on them to put them there. They have enough evidence to arrest them with what Kagan supposedly has said. I mean, that, come on. I don't believe any of it. I believe he was trying to get clout with police so that he could get more time off of his case, which he was able to finally do. They dropped charges. I think he's biding his time. The more time he spends in county jail waiting for a trial to happen, that's more time off of his time that he will not have to spend in a state penitentiary. And at this point in time, my gut feeling is that Richard Allen is a lone wolf. Now, I know what McClellan said at the press conference, you guys, but unless he comes up with somebody, that's going to come back to bite him. Hi. Hey, little Daisy. Hi. It's just my magic mouse. Hey, Allie, how are you? So good to see you, my dear. I miss you. And yeah, he's been charged. He is innocent until proven guilty. It's going to be up to a jury to decide if they have enough evidence against him to prove it without beyond a reasonable doubt. Emily, you are so welcome. They do deserve justice. I have a deep a care for Abby and Libby. I have grown to know these girls, what they were as far as best friends, the things that they loved in life, where they were headed, and their hopes and their dreams, and they definitely deserve justice. And they also deserve for us not to just remember them as victims. Hey, JJ, how are you? Welcome to my channel. So good to see you. Yes, Kelsey is expecting a baby in August of 2023. Kelsey and Caleb are excited. So next month, I think what we're going to expect and what we're going to see is we'll see the arguments between the prosecution and the defense for why Richard Allen should or should not be allowed bail and be out of jail waiting for trial. And I also believe that we will see the trial date moved. And I think that she may talk about whether or not the jury will be sequestered. I think that may come out at that trial or at that hearing as well. It just depends. They may set it up for another hearing on that because of time constraints. It'll be interesting to see. The majority of that hearing will be with the bond motion and the bail motion on whether or not Richard Allen should receive bail. And I don't believe he should. But that's just me. Ouch. Oh, thanks, Jane. Thanks so much. Thanks, little daisies. I always try. It's always ongoing. Trust me. There's always something going on with Delphi when it comes to some of the horrible stuff surrounding the drama here on YouTube as well as on Reddit and other locations. So I always try to. Hey guys, make sure you check out Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. She is one of my dearest friends, Allie. She has the most amazing channel. You guys need to check her out. She also covers Delphi. She covers the Idaho case. She's covering a lot of different things. So please make sure you check her out. Please also check out my beautiful friend, True Crime Maria. She also has a channel. It's a wonderful channel as well. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yes, Daisy, we will be talking about Flora very, very soon. Very, very soon. Florida has not gone off my radar. Trust me. Derek. Oh, man. Derek, thank you so much for subbing to my ladies. They are awesome. Hi, Richard. How are you? Welcome to my channel. I believe Richard Allen is a lone wolf from the start. Crime psychopathic in nature. Psycho's great at appearing so smooth and normal in everyday life. Psycho would never share a moment of sickness with anyone else. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. Iowa has the death penalty. Melissa. Indiana has the death penalty. Hey, Johnny Blaze, 8030, how are you? Good to see you. We may absolutely never know motive. You have to realize that. Sometimes with these criminals, we never know why they did it. The actual killing could be the motive. He wanted to kill. He lived out a fantasy. This guy may be that type of killer, that he was living in a fantasy world, and his fantasy he wanted to bring to life. We don't know. We may never know. I appreciate all of you guys being here with me tonight. I really do. It was a great live. You guys always give me the absolute best questions and the best responses. And I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to everyone who will be watching my replay. I appreciate you as well. Please make sure you like my video and give it a thumbs up. It is the best thing that you can do for me and my channel. It helps me get higher up in YouTube's algorithm, so more people become aware of my channel. And anyway, I just want to tell you guys thank you again for everything. And I love all of you. Thank you for supporting me. I will see you guys all on Thursday night. Hoosier Cold Case will be my guest, and we will be discussing Delphi, everything Delphi. And so that will be my show on Thursday night. Good night, everyone, and have a blessed rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you on Thursday.